Here for the Hati Report, and so I'll turn it to you.
Good morning. Can we use this? These lights are hot on my head. You coming up, Chris?
Yeah, I guess. I'm gonna take my.
I just want to start off by saying thanks for giving us a few minutes here to speak. This would have been my third trip since July of 10, and I came back in July thinking I had a pretty good grasp on things, and now after my third trip, I'm really confused about a lot of things. But it's been an interesting journey for me since July. The Lord has really shown me a lot of things, and He's changed my heart in a lot of ways that really needed some changing. And it was, I guess the whole experience for me has really kind of been a life-changing experience, something that I want to continue doing throughout my life. I've been asked the question, why Hati? Hati is where God spoke to me. I've talked to Brother Darwin about things before, and he has there's a certain spot that God has kind of called him to, and I think God will reach us anywhere, but sometimes God uses specific areas to maybe it takes something to really get a hold of us. It's something I really haven't got my head wrapped around yet. It's just I know that God has been really speaking to me through what I've experienced there, and just the way my heart has been changed. And I just want to really thank you for the opportunity to be able to do that. You guys have really been a lot of support, just financially, and also just your desire to know about it from questions you've asked me in the hallway, but hopefully some of your questions might be answered through this. Kevin's idea was good. We're just going to show a bunch of pictures, and we're just going to kind of comment on it as we go, and because I know my wife has a lot to say.
That's a big surprise. Can I go next so I can go back to the computer? And I guess I'm going to kind of bounce off what Jeff says, kind of why Hati. And for me, actually, before I start, I was going to bring my Bible up here and I forgot it. But I've got it bookmarked in my phone. I'm going to read James 1:27. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. And I'm sure I've read that verse 100 times, but it never hit me until I was in Haiti. I was in Haiti talking to, her name's Kathy. She's the one that runs Chances for Children. And she brought up that verse, and it just had a whole new meaning to me. And to get back to why Haiti, for me, Haiti was not so much as a relief effort as it was an evangelistic effort. I don't know if you know or not, but 90% of Haitians practice voodoo. That's their official religion. And for me, that just makes it a wide open mission field, and more so than a lot of other places in the world. And I guess being the practical person I am, I want to see the most bang for your buck, And so for me, Haiti is the most bang for the buck. It's you can make the most difference in a place like that, and you can spend very little money and make a huge difference in people's lives. And you see these kids that, if it wasn't for people like you and people going there, they would be raised to practice voodoo. And with very little effort, you can turn that kid's life around. You can give them a place to live. They can learn about Jesus. You can feed them, and I don't know. That's the biggest bang for your buck. And so I think that's all I'm going to say, and I'm going to head back to the computer. And just so you know, we are going to give you a chance to ask questions when we're done. So if you see pictures or video that you have questions about, just remember your questions.
And Chris will be answering those because she's the smart one. One thing that is interesting about that is that a lot of even Christians practice voodoo. And they'll do a voodoo ceremony on Saturday night, and then they'll go to church on Sunday. So they think they're getting to, they think, well, if, praying to God is good, then praying for Satan's good too. We'll do both. Some of them just don't know. But go ahead, Chris.
I just want to say to you, bonjour et merci un peu. Those are the only things I really learned while I was there. Bonjour is good morning, and merci un peu is thank you very much. And that's what I would like to say to all of you is thank you very much for all the support that you gave us, for coming to the pancake breakfast. Really, we enjoyed doing it as much as I hope you look like you enjoyed eating it. Cool. So thank you for that. There's some people that I'd like to thank. Obviously, my family for taking care of our kids while we were gone, for Mark and Jackie Veers for putting up with 3 extra kids that they really didn't have to do while we were gone. You have absolutely no idea. I felt at peace. I didn't have any anxiety at all about leaving a country. Leaving here, I knew they were with you. That if they needed a hug, needed a hug. If they needed a spanking, they'd get that. If they needed to be put to work, that would happen too. So you have no idea how much that means to us. To Angie Brand and for Jessica, we're going to see here in a little bit the mattresses that were purchased by all the hard work that Jessica and that Angie, they put a lot of effort in their shop. They had some people, some of the girls that worked there volunteered, and many of you came that Monday to help support that. And you're going to see here in the next little bit just what a difference that made. Something simple as a haircut for us made a huge difference for a bunch of children there.
One thing I did want to make mention about the mattresses, and it'll get to that, but when we were there, when I was there in January, we went to this place called Rosemead, and many of you have heard the name. And the group I'm with, that we were with is called Chances for Children. And what they try and do is, there's a lot of orphanages in Haiti. And some of those kids in those orphanages are able to be adopted, but they just never get out of the system. So what Chances for Children does is they kind of go around and they build relationships with different orphanages. They help improve their lives by helping provide food, better living arrangements. And then once they kind of have an in with those orphanages, then they try and find the kids in there that are adoptable. They get them out of there and they put them in a creche is what it's called. And then, is this thing dying? But anyway, that's what they do. And so this Rosemina, these mattresses, lost my train of thought, sorry. So when I was there in January, I met this little boy, Simone, and you'll see him, and hopefully you'll see him at church with me someday. But
They can all come as far as I'm concerned.
But anyway, he kind of grabbed me by the hand and he took me to his room. And at first I'd kind of looking around because we weren't really welcomed to go in. We weren't really supposed to go in the rooms and look around or anything. But he drugged me in there. And when I saw his bed and his living conditions, it was just nasty. I mean, these kids, there was a cholera tent outside that kids were in. And here this bed was that, him and another boy slept on, and it was wet. That wasn't the only mattress. There was a bunch of mattresses that were wet and in different rooms. It stunk in there, and it's like, man, something's got to be done here. And just a mattress, can really help improve their lives as far as, just the health of them, especially because these mattresses that were the money was raised for was all vinyl-covered mattresses that, were 100% waterproof, so all that stuff could be cleaned up, and it was just a lot more sanitary, a lot more comfortable. And when these kids put themselves to bed at night, it's just a lot better for them, a lot healthier. So, is this thing dead? Huh? So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. Go ahead.
As far as what my inspiration about going was, the church that I grew up in was a really mission-minded church. It was a Free Will Baptist Church in Flint, and we had a lot of missionaries that came through there. Steve and Becky Riggs were faithful comers to our church. They are missionaries in France, and I remember listening to their stories and wanting to, you just always there was something more that you'd want to hear. But I remember thinking to myself one day, I saw people go up to the front, and I thought, man, I hope he never asked me to do that because I don't know if I can go. That was what, how when I was a teenager, I thought, I hope that he never asked me to go to the mission field because I don't think I could do that. I couldn't leave my bedroom, my music, all that kind of stuff. And it's funny how it kind of went full circle there for 6 days for me. Really probably, as most of you know, I work with kids. So there's always kind of been, that's a real big part of my life is to be able to help kids and to do what I can for them. And this right here was a very big lesson for me, having to learn about the things that you can do, and there's so much that is still yet to do, and there's probably things that will still never be done. But you do what you can do. And the other thing that really wanted me to have, something that I wanted to have more of, is when I seen how Jeff, when he came back, how his life had changed. I could see when he came back just how you get very broken when you're over there, when you see how people live and you see how these kids, they just survive, a lot of them. It's not really even living to some of them when you see them. And I could see how his life was changing and how he wanted to help. And I liked seeing that, but I didn't understand it. And it was very hard for me to understand. But I knew that I wanted to have something that he had, that I wanted to experience something that he did. We get very self-centered, ungrateful, and a feeling and an attitude of entitlement in this country. And that is really something that we need to let go of and realize that we're a very, very blessed people here. And just because we don't have everything we want, we look around, we pretty much have everything that we need. So that was kind of my motivation as far as going. Like Jeff said, for me, the avenue of going to Haiti, it was because there was a resource, there was a connection that was there with Kevin and Jeff's cousin. Would I have ever chosen to go to Haiti? I have no idea, but the connection was there and the opportunity was there. And I can tell you something, that if I had the opportunity to go whenever I could go, I would go. It was amazing, and I'll stop now because we'll never get done. So, but thank you.
Use this, Kevin. It's not on. You know button on this? Is it on? There it is. Can you hear me now? This is at Three Angels where we stayed. There's another group there. It's another Christian group. It's called Three Angels, and they have a school and a clinic. And pretty much all these kids that you see are sponsored. It's like $27 a month, and it feeds them. It provides school for them. I don't know what all it does. Their uniforms. Chris knows more about it. But anyway, the doctor and his wife stay there, and they have a guest house there, and that's where we stayed. That's the doctor in the front. It's his wife over on the far right in the tank top, and that's our group. You see Dale in the group? He's not up here. He is out there. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask him.
That's Ken.
I'm sorry, Ken. Who did I say?
You said Dale. Dale's in Toronto. You won't see him.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Dale's in Toronto. Sorry, buddy. Many of you have seen the beads. A lot of you have purchased the beads. This is them making the beads. This is how they do it. They just basically take trash, cardboard boxes, whatever. They cut them and they roll them into beads. And it's a big deal for them too. I mean, that feeds their family. That's their livelihood, is making those beads. That's Junior.
Junior actually went to college, and he went through secondary school, and he unfortunately isn't able to find a job, which seems to be the case in Haiti. If you are blessed enough to be able to go to school, once you get through school, finding a job is a very difficult thing to do. So what's also very unique about him is that he is, as he's making these beads to help provide for his family, which in Haiti, that doesn't really happen. Men tend to have the mindset that they will be with a woman, they will have a child, and then they leave. They don't help support or take care of their family. So that's a really big deal for they were very proud of him there at Three Angels for not only the work that he does, but for being the man that he should be.
Building a new bathroom here.
Yeah. Jeff and Ken actually helping to build that bathroom that you just seen that was outside of the Three Angels guest house where we stayed at. That was our last day there. That was a picture I took at the clinic that's right there on Three Angels, the guest house. Dr. Jack is there. He has a clinic. He has a clinic that's open once a week that people from all around come. And actually there will be people who will come and will just sit in the waiting room for hours. They could have left hours ago, but they choose to stay there just to socialize. It's a big day out for them. That was the morning we were getting ready to go to up in the mountains in Kenskoff, where I did the clinic that day. Nicole, who was there on the left with the bandana on her head, she had people donate in her community a lot of little activities for the kids. So they had like a goodie bag that they got that day when we arrived. So they had some activities to do while they waited to be seen. So that was the morning that everybody was getting those together.
In a country where, like Kevin said, like Kevin was saying, 90% of the country practices voodoo. And you saw there before school singing "This Is the Day." It's amazing how, we can't do that here, but yet they can do that over there. And that's another thing, that the Three Angels, that school is also, it's a Christian school. So it's not just, so there is a lot of evangelism there. And they're also, that school, the whole Three Angels there was damaged in the earthquake. And they're building a new facility, which they're going to be able to handle more kids. And the clinic's going to be able to handle more people. And they're actually going to have a church on there. And so that's going to be a really, really awesome thing. This is at Rosemena. This is the place where the mattresses went. You will see a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids on a small piece of property. There's no grass. And these kids want attention like you wouldn't believe. I mean, they crawl all over you.
I told Kevin in that picture, I walked by and I got ready to take the picture. I said, "You look like Jesus in those books, like that you see at the doctor's office where he's sitting there and all the kids are around him." I said, "You look like Jesus with all those kids around you." As you could see the first couple slides before that, they were looking at pictures of themselves. Can you imagine you're in a place and there's not a mirror? You don't really know what you look like. So when you bring a camera out, you cannot get a picture of just one child. They're in groups and in groves. So they love to have their picture made. So what Chances for Children have been doing is getting a collage made each time that they come back, and they give it to them, and they can hang it up and they can see what they look like then and have pictures of themselves. That was our group shot when we were at Rosemena. Jeff's always going to have a good time no matter where he's at. There's his homeboys, so there's the picture right there. He was so proud that he could do this. He went around and he had to show everybody what he could do. So, it's a little, in a country where it's voodoo, right there, it's kind of like the picture. Now look at this little outfit. The red dress, she had on a pair of underwear that was probably meant for a 10-year-old little girl. They were ripped, and she had on snow boots. And that was what her outfit was that day. And she was Ken's big buddy that day, too. See?
Are you sure you don't want to come up, Ken? Ken was awesome on that trip, man. We had so much fun with him. Notice there's no mattresses there, just a sheet on a piece of plywood. This here that you see, Chris made a comment about this. This was right when we got there. We had brought mattresses with us, but look how small these kids are. There's nobody to put them down at night. They got to put themselves to bed, and it's just so sad thinking that. I still want to carry Hannah to bed at night.
It broke my heart because I just seen him lay there, and actually the other little guy that was in the bed with him guided him to bed because he was so sleepy. And I don't know, it was probably, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon maybe when we were there. And I just looked at him, he laid there, and I'm like, you know what? Nobody even misses him. It's like he put himself to bed, and no one even missed that he was gone. And that haunted me that day. And here's the big mattresses.
Now, we took 14 on that day because that's all we could get in the truck. But they were real excited about carrying them in.
The thing that, because there were some people that I worked with too that helped purchase some, and I was showing them the pictures. And I said, the one thing, as I was watching them go by, these kids were so excited to have these. And the thing is, not one of them asked, is it mine? Or this is mine. There was no fighting over it. They were just happy to be able to have something to bring in like that. And there wasn't an argument, and they were just as proud as if they, 14 mattresses, and I don't even know how many kids were there. And I thought, how do you choose? Who gets what? You know? And that's what broke my heart, too. I'm like, it's like, okay, we got to get more. Every kid here needs to have one. This is a little area right here that these kids, there's like a bench seat that goes across. It went like across this way and across this way. And when we got there, I don't know how many kids. What do you say, about 20 kids
Probably.
sitting there, around there? Like some of those kids, they look small. Like he's 3. They just sit there. They don't try to get down. They don't play with each other, really. They just kind of sit there. Now, it may have been a little bit odd, because here we were coming in there, and they were just looking at us, but there was not one that tried to crawl down to play. They just sat there, and you could tell they were very, very content. That's the picture I was thinking of right there. That little guy played hide and seek for I don't know how long before he would even come out and see us. He stood behind a wall and he peeked out every once in a while, and he finally came out, and then he went and got up in Jeff's lap.
That's the bathrooms. Now, that's a big improvement from what was there in January. In January, it was just, I don't even want to talk about it.
I don't know if you can read the shirt. I only cry when ugly people hold me. I told Kevin, lucky for her, she's smiling. So.
Lucky for you, they have Photoshop.
They were all lined up here for Dum Dum Suckers. This gentleman right here is actually his wife that runs the orphanage, but she was gone, so he was in charge of it. And he just made the one command. They all got in a line, and each of them got a Dum Dum Sucker, which is a big deal.
But there's no playroom or anything like that. There's no area to play. I mean, the kids are all congested like that all the time. So,
sorry.
okay. All right, so now that was the last of Rosemina. One thing about, is there more Rosemina pictures, or was that it? Okay. One thing I wanted to mention earlier, when I first went, I knew there would be some work I could be doing, some electrical work that I could do, and I felt like that in order for me to go, it really needed to be something that I could, like some sort of service that I could offer that not anybody else could. In Haiti, electric is one of those things where the electric is terrible. I mean, it's really bad. even the people that are trained in it there are complete hacks compared to us here in the States. But obviously, but what I learned quickly was that God can use anybody over there. I mean, these kids, they need somebody to pick them up and love them, and it's about building friendships with them, about bringing awareness. I talked about Simone and how when I was there in January, he took me to his bed and he showed me his room and all that. But when we got there, I barely got out of the car, and he noticed me, a few months later, and he attacked me. And when I picked him up, he hugged me like he truly missed me. And it's like, no one really, cares for these kids. I mean, even the place where they're at. I mean, you got a man and his wife and a couple of nannies. How can they care for 90 kids and really, truly show affection to them? But anyway, so then we went to Kinskoff. This is up in the mountains. This is the orphanage up there. This was a little playground area that was going on during the clinic. Chris did a clinic one day, and I'll let her talk about that.
Actually, these pictures right here were Sunday after church. We could see all the kids all dressed up and their hats on, and it was a big deal. And they actually, they didn't really have to walk that day. There was a tap that brought them. Those two right there in that picture, they were my big buds. They hung around me. One of them pretended to be a doctor. So he went around checking my pulse all day as I was doing the clinic. He'd come back and check to make sure I was okay. So, and that's what these kids do. They just sit there in these chairs and they just hang out all day. Or they may go to their room. You'll see a room here and a couple of, maybe a bunch of Beanie Babies that the girls have. But, you never see any fighting. You never see any arguing between these kids. So it was amazing. Those were new rooms. Is that? Oh, that's inside, isn't it? You never had an empty spot on your lap. So this is one of the girls' rooms. These were new rooms that were built, I think since, when was it? I think Kathy said since January, wasn't it?
Well, in January when I was there, it was just some 2x4s.
That was Saturday. We were walking. We had went to go see the orphanage, and we were walking back to the church where the clinic was going to be done. And it's very hard because when you go to walk, you've got a kid on each leg, on each arm. They got their hands in your pocket.
Okay, this is also the river that they do baptisms in. They'll take it, they'll dig out a hole, they'll let it fill up with water, and then they'll do a baptism in it. And obviously you see that they're washing clothes. And then right on the other side of that river, or right on the other side of that, is just all garbage.
That was a light that Kevin and Jeff fixed. How long had it? Tell them how long it had been.
Kathy said it hadn't been working in years. They had no lights at all for years. And so we got some of the lights working in there.
Those are baby cribs that the little ones sleep in. There's all the Beanie Babies that the girls have that have been donated. And their beds are made like that every day, nice and neat and clean. That's my buddy, and I couldn't even tell you his name because there was just so many kids. But I saw another little one holding him, and I thought he could see kind of struggle with him because the older ones take care of the little ones. So I carried him, and that was, well, as we were walking to the clinic, he had fallen asleep. Come to find out, that little guy's 5. He can't walk, he can't talk, and I'm sure that he's, it appeared like that he probably had cerebral palsy. But they had been taking him to physical therapy down into the city a couple of times, but it's very difficult to be able to do that. You can imagine what kind of chore that is. So he was just absolutely precious. This was Saturday. As we were doing the clinic, these were the kids that were waiting. We had just walked from the orphanage to the church, and we all kind of sat down, taking a little bit of a break. This girl she was all over Kevin's hat, so she was wearing Kevin's hat that day after we got back. They were the ones, right before we got started, they came in. As you can see, it wasn't just kids. There were adults that came. That was in the little treat bags, the stickers. So this little guy had fun with stickers that day. That was Sunday morning at church. And that was after we got back from church on Sunday. Okay, this is the clinic day. This was the day, I'll be honest with you, Friday night after having gone to Rosemina. She was actually my first little patient. After having gone to Rosemina on Friday, seeing those kids, you can imagine it just makes you hurt when you have to leave them. So Friday night, I didn't really get a whole lot of sleep. That just kept playing through my mind, and then not knowing what I was going to come up against here. It was just going to be basic things as far as height and weight, and just a really basic assessment on them. Hold on that one, Kevin. Just really basic, because what that does is if they get that information and they track it, that allows them to be able to have information that they can get grant money, that these kids can get actually more food. So it was a really, for me, I'm thinking, wow, what is this really going to do? But some of these kids had never even seen a doctor, had never seen a nurse. They had just pretty much just been born, at home, and had just, that was it. So having do that day, I was very nervous about what I was going to come up against. I didn't take any really medications with me, just the Tylenol and the Motrins and the vitamins and everything that you guys donated. This is where it went. It went to this orphanage, to these kids. So that day when I went, what I did is, it was just really basic, did what I needed to do. The pastor there at the church, Maxime, is the one, he would be my translator. And he would ask me, I'd say, so what's going on with them? And he would ask them, and they would, let me know. So basically, all I had was just pain relievers. Well, I had brought the bag of medicine that I'd taken for Jeff and I. We had Tums and Pepsid and I don't know what all else. And some Zyrtec, some antihistamines. So once I started getting into it more, I realized I needed more meds than what I had. So I started pulling out stuff. I gave out absolutely everything that you can imagine. Everybody had an upset stomach. And what made me think, oh, wow, is it upset stomach? Are they hungry? And it was things like that made me, really think about, what am I going to do here? My fear was what's going to come up against me that I can't help, that is something that I'm just going to go home with that will haunt me. But I realized quickly that no matter what I did, they were very appreciative. When I would get finished, they'd say, oh, merci, and they were just so appreciative of everything. This lady, the lady that was a couple slides back, that was there, she actually, I really feel like she probably had TB, was coughing, and she had a lot of the signs and symptoms of that. So she was actually getting help, was going to go to a TB clinic to be seen. There was this is the little guy, the 5-year-old that I was examining to see how his little arms and legs were very tight to try to bend them. He needed more physical therapy, but even standing on his legs, moving them, he started crying because it bothered him so bad. But one thing with the other kids, when I seen them that day, not one of them cried. Now, how many of us, when we take our kids to the doctor's office, they freak out? You know, immediately they walk in, they start screaming. These kids had never been seen by anybody before. I'm taking blood pressures, and they're just standing, they're just sitting there, and they're just looking at me. Not one tear was shed. And when I would get finished with them, they'd had activities outside for them. They came and they sat on the pews for hours and watched because they had never seen anything like that, and they wanted to see what might happen to the next person that was getting in the chair. There was actually people who had walked quite a distance, the adults that came that day, and had walked quite a bit. To get there, they waited for hours. Nobody got upset about having to wait. For those of us that have to wait, I had to wait at an urgent care clinic last night for an hour, and I'm thinking, are you kidding me? These people walked for who knows how long and waited for hours, and it didn't matter to them whatsoever. And then as far as with the clinic, Ken was a humongous help. He would do heights, he would do weights, he was right there with me. Whatever needed to be done. We, washed wounds, put Band-Aids on, gave out medications. There was one lady, when I was asking Maxine what her problem was, he looked at me, he goes, well, she's C-R-A-Z-Y. I'm like, okay, I don't have any medicine for that. So I sat there and I thought, okay, what do I do? Because I obviously did not want to offend anybody being there. So what I did full assessment on her head to toe, took her blood pressure, all of that kind of stuff. And so I looked at Maxime. I said, would you be offended if I gave her, first I said, is there anything else that I can help her with? And he goes, no. So I said, would you be offended if I just gave her 8 Tums? I said, tell her to take 2 of them. 2 of them, once a day for 4 days, and maybe her mind will be clearer. You don't know. And she was so excited. She took that baggie of Tums and it was just like out the door, like that. So, and I was talking to Alicia about it. I said, I feel bad because I did that. She goes, but you could give them a package of Smarties. And a lot of it is of just knowing that somebody cares, that somebody took the time just to listen to them, just to listen to her and to acknowledge that she had an issue. So that day at the clinic was very, very overwhelming and very emotional for me. We started probably about 1:30. We didn't get done until, I think it was after 7 or maybe around 7. The last kid that I seen I had to finish up by flashlight. And then they got the generators running, and we were able to see just a few more of the adults that had been helping out that day. And, for a lot of years, I had always had struggled. It's like, you always think, have I made the right decision in my life as far as what I'm doing, where I'm supposed to be? And if there was ever one time in my life, not to negate everything else that I've ever done, it was like if there was one time in my life, I felt like that God was telling me, you know what, this was the day you were created for. This was what it's all about. This is why you chose the path, or this is the path I led for you to go down, is for this day. And as I sat there, and we finally had to separate the kids as the ones that were sick and the ones that weren't sick, because there was just so many. And the first little girl I showed you on here, that I told you was the first one that I seen, had the little hat on. I put my stethoscope on her heart, was listening to her, and it was just like, when I touched her, this feeling came over me. I was like, it just sounded so empty. And it just sounded like, almost like a hopelessness that was in there. And her little face looking up at me. And I'm thinking, wow, it was just overwhelming. And then as I went through the rest of the day, finally, when it was time when I was like, okay, we've got to get this moving faster, I was listening to them. And you just kept listening to their heart, and I just prayed that God just please be with them. lead them in the way that they're supposed to be led, and keep them safe. You know, one after one, I just listened to these hearts. And as I listened to them, I just felt mine breaking more and more, because it was like, what more can I do for them? And then I remembered in Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11, where it says, I know, for I know the plans that I have for you. And where it says for these plans, it's for plans for wholeness and not for evilness. And that he is going to give, and that I will give you. That I will give you a future and hope. And I thought, do they have that? Do these kids have a future, and do they have a hope? You look around and there's so much to do. And it's very overwhelming. And you just want to help them all. And I'll tell you, just one little girl that's in here had been having diarrhea for days, for numerous times, and she came and her eyes were all sunken. And we brought bottled water with us, and one of Dale, who was the attorney that went with us from Toronto, I said, I wish I had some Pedialyte or something to give her. He says, I have some rehydration salt packets. So I used that, and I put it in the bottle of water. And I said, she needs to drink this whole bottle of water, as soon as she can. I saw her at church the next day, and it was unbelievable, the difference that it made. One bottle of clean water. That's all it took.
French. Anglais.
Welcome to you. We are happy to see you in our guest. Welcome to you. We are happy to see you in our guest.
That was their welcome song to us. Anytime that we came, we went there on Saturday and we went back on Sunday. When you walked into their home, they always sing a welcome song to you. Welcome, welcome, we welcome you. We are happy to see you as our guest. And they have nothing.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior has ransomed me. And like a flood, His mercy breaks, unending love, amazing grace.
Church there, some of these people walk 2 hours to come to church. and it doesn't matter what the weather conditions are. And church is long, really long. You see Dale and Ken there. I felt sorry for Dale that day. I think that was his first day in church.
In a very, very long time, he was Catholic.
And man, I don't know if God was speaking to him or it was just a flood of emotions, but he was breaking. And that's what that place will do to you.
That was that church service. It's like I remember sitting there looking, and I just looked at all the people. Of course, a lot of them had looked familiar because I had seen them the day before in the clinic. But it seemed that day that God was no place else except in that church service. I have never felt so overwhelmed. It's like I never felt his presence so much as I did then. I didn't understand one word of what was said. Some of the hymns were the same. Of course, they were in Creole or in French. But some of the hymns you could tell the same. So, we were singing in English. But like Jeff said, that place will, definitely break you. You get to a point in your life where you start thinking about yourself too much and you get a little overwhelmed with what's going on. And I remember saying to Caleb's teacher the day that we left, she said, I'm praying for you. I hope you guys have a really good trip. I said, you know what? I'm just ready to be emptied. I just feel so full of everything else. I'm just ready to be emptied. And I didn't really know what that meant, to be emptied and broken, until after leaving that church service that day, looking at those faces. Tons of people in there, kids piled on top of each other, sitting on top of each other, not one fight, not one push, not one shove. When it came time for the offering, just a line, huge line, people. And I'm looking at them, they have nothing. But yet they're giving with a smile. The kids are raising their hands, praising God. And they're praising him not just for what he's done, but for who he was. Or who he is to them, because they don't have anything.
Some of these pictures you've seen of it looks like a tent city. It's actually an orphanage that is built on the side of a hill, but they built like a platform for it. And they covered it with tarps. See the tarps there? And they put these tents on there. Now, these tents, when we were there, were just big open tents. No mattresses, nothing, just a lot of bugs. So Chances for Children is working with that orphanage as well. But they haven't really done anything yet. They had some old mattresses from the creche that they took over there to give to them. But that's just another orphanage that they're going to try and build a relationship. It's real important to see what they do with the money and what they do with the donations that are given to them too. And then you saw a couple pictures of the colorful rooms. Those were some new schools that were built on that same property. They like sunglasses.
Yeah, this is the creche that Jeff had talked about. The Chances for Children have, it's actually where Jeff went in December that he wired so that children that can be adopted, they are taken from the orphanages and brought here. And as he said, you can see a huge difference once they're brought from those orphanages that you've seen previously to now. That was our very first day there. Kevin and Ken were putting a fan on upstairs, and boy, did it need it, because when they came downstairs, their clothes were wet. It was very warm. There were the mattresses when we got there. We took a picture of those. This was at the creche. This is a food drive that they had in December. It had just had cleared customs and had been brought there just shortly before that. And inside there, all of this is food and supplies that need to last them the whole year. You'll see here in some pictures that'll be coming, you can see all the food that was donated. We had to go through when we inventoried them, seen what was in it, and then unpacked those boxes. They were making shelves to, because there was so much food, there needed to be more shelving units so that they could put the food away. That's canned chicken. They eat a lot of canned chicken in it's almost like reminds me of the chicken stew that my grandma made in Alabama. The chicken and carrots and potatoes and tomatoes. And as you can see, peanut butter is a big mainstay there. The little girl here on the end, her name, whoops. No, that's me. Little girl on the end, her name is Jolene. On the left, her name is Jolene. The little next to her is Reynoldson. He had gotten there not too awfully long ago. The next little guy, his name was Jameson. They had just arrived at the creche the day before we had arrived there. The other little guy, his name was Woodley. And then Lixon was on the end. Lixon and Jameson are brothers. When we first got there, they wouldn't look at us. They would not make eye contact. They would not do anything with us at all. They just sat there. And they all have homes. They've all been adopted out. As a matter of fact, that's Island right there. She's Miss Independent. Got very mad at me when I tried to help her do anything. So they were in school one day. They are taught English. They learn in their alphabet. They have alphabet cards. The lady in the pink skirt is their teacher. And as you can see, even the littlest of ones go to school. These were new sheets that they had gotten for their beds. They also received some of the new mattresses. Woodley, he got Buzz Lightyear, and man, he got mad when we took him out and put him on his bed because he wanted to hold the box. So that's one day we were putting new sheets on the beds. Reynoldson loved his. It was baseballs and very, very happy. Just a new set of sheets. That's the Haitian delegation, as we're known as. Those are the beds that are there at the creche. I think that's after we'd emptied a few mattresses out. There was 50 mattresses that we had there that day. That's when we were loading up, going to Rosemena to deliver the mattresses. Reynoldson enjoying his new bed. All right, I'm going to let Jeff talk about that.
Oh, no, they thought that they had water leaking from the cistern. So I went down in the hole and looked around, and I couldn't find any cracks, but I did find a lot of like 2-inch long cockroaches. So, of course, I had to grab one and throw it up so my wife could see it.
That was our last day there, or the day before last day. It was Woodley, got his sucker. Holden Flat Stanley, which was a long story project for Caleb. More of the food from the food drive. This was lunchtime the day that we got there. Look at the amount of food that's on their plates. They eat every bit of it.
Reynoldson, Jolene, and Ruby.
Do we want to keep taking the
Yes.
chicken out there? Okay.
Yes, I'll go back. Let's go
That little girl there in the middle, the one that you could really hear singing with the beads, what's her name?
Jolene.
Jolene. But anyway, She's actually, her family that adopted her is actually out of Bloomfield. So she's going to be from Michigan really soon, I hope. So it's, you know, we can keep doing this, and we won't. We'll stop. You got anything else you need to say?
I just wanted just to quickly say, to tell people, you know, it doesn't matter where you go. You don't have to go to Haiti. You don't have to go to Africa. There's plenty of stuff to do wherever you are at. God commands that we help others. And it doesn't matter where it's at. He just wants us to do it. Just do something for someone. And, you know, there was a little saying that a friend of mine that I work with who goes on mission trips, that a little saying that Mother Teresa had said. She goes, we can't do great things. We can only do small things with great love. I have a song, I know that Patrick's going to be singing too, but I have a song that I didn't plan on singing at all because I didn't really think I could make it through it. But it just kept bugging me all day, and finally at 7 o'clock last night, I just, you know, relented and said, okay, God, you got your way. I'm going to do it. So I'll probably need a little bit of light so I can see, though. Huh?
Surely children weren't made for the streets, and fathers were not made to leave. Surely this isn't how it should be. Let your kingdom come. Surely nations were not made for war, or the broken meant to be ignored. Surely this just can't be what you saw. Let your kingdom come. Here in my heart, I will live to carry your compassion, to love a world that's broken, to be your hands and feet. I will give with the life that I've been given and go beyond religion to see the world made change by the power of your name. Surely life wasn't made to regret, and the lost were not made to forget. Surely faith without action is dead. Let your kingdom come. Lord, break this heart. I will live to carry your compassion, to love a world that's broken, to be your hands and feet. I will give with the life that I've been given, go beyond religion to see the world made change by the power of your name. Jesus, your name is a shelter for the hurting. Your name is a refuge for the weak. Only your name can take the undeserving. Jesus, your name holds everything I need. I will live to carry your compassion, to love a world that's broken, to be your hands and feet. I will give with the life that I've been given and go beyond religion to see the world made change by the power of your name. I'll carry your compassion to love a world that's broken. I'll be your hands and feet. I will give with the life that I've been given and go beyond religion to see the world made change by the power of your name. By the power of your name.